Timer on Pashas Pinchas from Tafshin Lamed Zayin. It begins with the idea of the dividing of the land of Eretz Yisrael that was done by a few different things. The two different things that are explained was done both through a lottery and through Ruach HaKodesh, that Elazar HaKohen, based on the Urim Betumim, had told the Jewish people to divide the land. This tribe will get this land, this tribe will get this land. But together with that, there was still a girdle, there was still a lottery. And the Rebbe is going to speak about the idea of both these things in our Avodah. Ach b'gorel Yahlek Haaretz, but by a girdle, by a lottery, that land will be divided. This pasuk was told to Moshe Rabbeinu, v'koyal kibush haaretz idea Yeshua. It's referring to the conquest of Eretz Yisrael through Yeshua. Lucas haaretz ke'elis yashiv ba, the division of the land, to finally settle in it. Toisa ach b'gorel was only by the lottery. Pirish b'zehu, what is the meaning? That was done only by a lottery. The division of the land. There were two components. One thing is, it says Al Pi Hashem. It says in the pasuk also, according to Hashem. It says in Yeshua, which means Beruach HaKodesh, which means that there was the divine spirit that rested upon the Kohen Gadol, upon Elazar HaKohen, like it says in Rashi in our parsha. And also there would be Val Pi HaGorel. And it was also according to the lottery. So which was it? How did it work? Was there Ruach HaKodesh? Was it a lottery? So Rashi explains how both of them work. Because of Rashi, I'll tell you a pasuk shlifnei, like Rashi writes in his commentary on the pasuk prior to this pasuk of speaking about the lottery that took place. So he said, first, Elazar HaKohen would proclaim Beruach HaKodesh. Im shevet ploini oila tchum ploini oila imay. If this shevet goes up, or when this shevet goes up, this particular section, this particular border of the land will be along with him. In other words, he would proclaim. He would already foretell what the lottery would say. He said, because the way he's soon going to explain that there was two baskets, and there was 12 notes of names, and 12 notes of sections of Eretz Yisrael, divisions of Eretz Yisrael, and he would say, you know what's going to happen? He would foretell. He would say, if this particular Shevet will come up, if you'll pull out, let's say, Shevet Ephraim, you know what's going to be the result. What happens when you pull out the other one? The result will be that this and this will be his section. If you pull out Shevet Zvulun, the result will be that it will be on the ocean, at the ocean sea, at the etc. So there was Ruach HaKodesh, and then there was the actual lottery. In 12 notes, in 12 pieces of whatever parchment or whatever it was, were written the names of the different shvatim, with the 12 shvatim, and 12 boundaries were written. In other words, 12 divisions of sections of Eretz Yisrael were written on 12 notes, or bolum bekalfi, and then they mixed them each into separate, like a basket. And afterwards they made the lottery, and then rose up the name of the tribe and the name of the particular portion that was allotted to him, according to what we said already previously, before they actually picked it out in the girdle, it was already declared by Ruach HaKodesh. Yet, in the Afal became Hoisa Chalukas Aretz Ach Begirdle, despite the fact that was already, if you will, predestined, and Elazar HaKohen already proclaimed it. The actual division was only by the girdle, because the Ruach HaKodesh was only telling us what the girdle was going to say, and the goyrel was the decider of which shevet would go where. This means the ikar chalukah hoysapia goyrel, the main division of the land, was based upon the lottery. The achiluk bepashtus bein beis and yonmu, the simple difference between the ruach hakodesh versus the lottery. The chalukah shall pi ruach hakodesh hari hoysai de alazar hakodesh. The division that came about through ruach hakodesh was through alazar hakodesh. Mashenkin a chalukah shall pi ruach hakodesh. It's actually, there's a typo over here. There's an extra set of words. So you skip this beginning of the line, go to the second mashenkin a chalukah shall pi agoydol. He l'mayla ma'acheshn lagamri, as opposed to the division according to the goydol is completely beyond calculation whatsoever. In other words, even ruach hakodesh was still done through human intervention, which shows some type of level of comprehension in the mind. It says the Ruach HaKodesh resides in the mind of the Navi and so on. But when there's a lottery is completely a miraculous event, especially the way Rashi describes it, that the lottery itself proclaimed and announced it. We mentioned this also yesterday, shared the miracle of the lottery announcing it. Where do we see that our girl is totally beyond the calculation, completely? Like it says in the pasuk, "B'cheik yutol hagoyrol ma'ashem kol mishpatoi." In the bosom, meaning in the most hidden area, says Mishlei, is placed the goyrol, is placed a lottery, and from Hashem is its entire rulings. In other words, the rulings of a lottery comes entirely from Hashem. There is no human intervention in a lottery at all. It's completely considered something that's coming from Hashem. That's what he says, that the primary level of the division, the primary idea of the division of Eretz Yisrael is totally beyond any calculation whatsoever. That's why it says Ach B'Goydol, only by the lottery, even though there was also the prophecy of Elazar. But like we said, the main thing is that it was finally decided by the Goydol, and that Goydol is beyond calculation. So the Rebbe concludes, V'hine HaTorah nitzchus, since the Torah is everlasting, this understood, the Inyan that this idea, she'ikir chalukas v'aydeze yishuv haaretz al pi hagoyrol, that the main idea of the division, and through that was how the Eretz Yisrael was settled, is through the lottery, which a lottery is something that is completely super rational, beyond calculation. Yes, to be found in any place, in any time, in the service of every single yid. In other words, the Rebbe is saying over here that the main point we need to realize, the lesson for all times, is the super rational component of settling Eretz Yisrael. Whatever settling Eretz Yisrael means in our avodas Hashem, as Yisungin explained, which is applicable even now when we are not dividing Eretz Yisrael, when we're not in the midst of settling Eretz Yisrael, when we're still in Golus. So whatever settling Eretz Yisrael means beruchnius, so whatever that spiritual idea in avodas Hashem is settling Eretz Yisrael, that is done through something that is a lottery, meaning it's done from something that is completely beyond reason, beyond logic, a totally super rational level. So the Rebbe goes on to say, first of all, we need to identify what is the idea of settling Eretz Yisrael these days in avodah, even though we don't have the physical idea of settling Eretz Yisrael. Humans will be understood by explaining the idea of the conquering and the division of the land in every single yid's avoid. It's a land that constantly the eye of Hashem is in it from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. The idea of the conquest of the land is Lasis came to make the entire world be in such a manner that the eyes of Hashem should be in it, which means, what does it mean the eyes of Hashem should be in the entire world? that the world should be a home for the Eibishter. So just like Eretz Yisrael is a place where Hashem is focused on and his eyes are on it from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So when we're talking about conquering Eretz Yisrael, in our avodah, we are bringing that aspect of Hashem's focus and attention and interest and living there in the entire world. What's the idea of making a home for Hashem? The main place where a person is settled in is in his home. A person might, for whatever reason, be on the road. A person might have a business or some other reason that he needs to be on the road many days a year. And sometimes it could even be that the majority of the days of the year, he's not home. For example, there are people that, but that for business reasons, they might be traveling an entire week and they only come home for Shabbos. There were people like that. The people that were shachtim often used to travel far away from home, used to be away from home the entire week, come home for Shabbos. It's a very common thing that people used to do for business and so on. But so if the home is not measured by the quantity of days that I'm there, based on such a calculation, if a person is spending 6 days a week, 5 days a week away from home, so you're going to say, you know where his home is? His home is the Hilton. His home is the Best Western. His home is a Motel 6. No, that's not the way it works. The home is somewhere where it's the main place where the person is settled, regardless if he's there only once a week. The home is somewhere where he is settled in, where he's at home. It's not just a house, it's just where he feels at home, where he feels himself, where he doesn't feel like he's a guest. So too, it's in the top, the idea of saying that Hashem should have a home down here below. How is a home made for Hashem? What is that effort? What is that job that we have? That we need to conquer the world and we need to make it a home for Hashem. That's through mitzvahs, through studying Torah and fulfilling of mitzvahs. We can move in the past just like it's self-understood. So it should be able to be a home for the Eibishter down below. Why they should through fulfilling Hashem's will in the study of Torah and fulfillment of mitzvahs. Like the Chazal say, it says over there concerning Karbonis that it says it's a reach nichoyach, a pleasing scent. So the Chazal want to know, what does it mean, a pleasing scent for Hashem? Hashem doesn't smell things and so on. And to say that smell is something that's pleasing for him. So what's the idea of a reach nichoyach? So they play off of the word nichoyach and they say reach nichoyach means a nachas ruach. It's something that's causing pleasantness by Hashem. What is it causes pleasantness by Hashem? That Hashem said and his will was fulfilled. So therefore, this makes Hashem feel at home when we are doing his will, when we are learning Torah. So now the Rebbe is going to finally introduce us to the idea of Goyrel. In doing Torah mitzvahs, there are 2 levels of doing it, or 2 types, 2 stages. This itself, in the doing of Torah mitzvahs, there are 2 types. Avoid al pitam vadas, the avoid where we serve Hashem based on rational, logical type of a service. With thought, speech, and deed, which are known as levushi and nefesh, the garments of our soul. With all your heart, with all your soul. And then that is all similar to logic. That is all the basic level of avoid. Then there's avoid b'chol moedecha, there's avoid with all your might. All your might means going above and beyond everything, beyond the limitations of our intellect. The level of a lottery that's beyond the reason and understanding. So therefore, when we're talking about making a home for Hashem down here below, so the lesson that we are learning from our parsha is that the main creation of Hashem's home is not through the Ruach HaKodesh of Elazar HaKohen, but through the level of Ach B'Gorel Yachalek Haaretz, through the lottery that was super rational. For this he explains, the Ikra Avodah Tzarech Li is Ach B'Gorel, that main Avodah has to be only through the lottery. That is the core of our avodah. That, at the essence of our avodah, has to be our commitment to Hashem beyond reason and beyond understanding. Next page. So now he's going to explain what this means and how this interacts with the rest of our avodah that has to be done in a logical way. The explanation of this matter is the idea of a goydel. There are two explanations of this idea of lottery that is outside of the realm of intellect. What does it mean when something is outside of the realm of intellect? So, just to say it first, before we read it inside, in a simple sense, when a person makes a lottery, not, spiritual stuff or anything, when he's making a lottery, so he's just leaving the decision to chance. It's not about spirituality. It's just something he doesn't know where to go with this, with his mind. So he's just doing ini, mini, mani, mo. That's something that's lower than intellect. And there's a place for that also in our avodah. Then there's the idea of the goyrol expressing something way beyond intellect. And both of those are correct. And both of those are to be found in our avodah. That's the Rebbe is going to explain. And the Rebbe says in the brackets, the Samach Tzedek explains this based on the Alter Rebbe's Amarim. It's also explained in the Amarim of the Reb Marash and the Amarim of the Nesiim afterwards. Skip the brackets to the third line. Aleph, one level of a goyrol is the goyrol koyel b'china shalom matam matam b'das. Goyrol is referring to the level of a level that's lower than reason and understanding. B'chinas emunah, the level of belief. Gemaimer, like the Chazal say, Bo Chavakuk v'midon alachas. Chavakuk came and set them up on one, meaning he established it and he made, there's one level upon which all Torah mitzvah stands on. In other words, it's the basic, it's the foundation, it's beneath everything. What did Chavakuk Hanavi say? V'tzadik b'emunaso yichya, that a tzaddik lives by his emunah. And then once you have emunah, everything else stands on that. If you don't have emunah, the whole building of our Torah mitzvahs collapses. So that level of goyrol, that's called Shazeo Inyan Hakabos Oil Shalom Matam Matam V'das. That's the idea of accepting the yoke of heaven that is beneath reason and understanding. It's the basic approach of accepting what Hashem tells me to do without any other type of questioning, without any other type of issue. That is one level of goyrol, comes out in the Mamarim that he for the different abbey. Pirush abbey Shabbat. A second explanation of goyrol is Shalzeh, maybe Maimer, like we said, Maimer of Yechim concerning this that Samach Tzedek brings. A Maimer of the Alter Rebbe on what Rabbi Yechim said, Eini Yedei Beis Derech Malichem Oisei on his deathbed, he said, I do not know what path they're going to take me. So the question is, what do you mean Rabbi Yechim Mazaki didn't know what path he's going to go on after he passes away from this world? How could that be such a thing? Though he himself studied for 40 years, and then another 40 years after that he taught. With all the qualities of Rabbi Mazakai, he still said on his deathbed, I don't know what path they're going to lead me. So why is that so? There's a level in the soul that transcends knowledge, the level of Eini Yedea. That was what Rabbi Yechim was saying. Eini Yedea, the level that I don't know. The level of I don't know is Bechinas Eichidah Shemin Nefesh, B'koich Sanef Shuinam Siras Nefesh, Shalom Aylam Etam Edas. In the soul powers, that's the level of self-sacrifice, that's beyond reason and knowledge and understanding. That's Yechidam, and that's also the level of Goyrol. This level of the lottery that's beyond reason and knowledge. It's the goal and the core of all avodah. So, in other words, he's not going down to the discussion of Rabbi Yechim Mazakai. All he wants to tell you for Rabbi Yechim Mazakai is there's the ordinary avodah, which in the avodah shal pitam v'das Rabbi Yechim Mazakai was perfect. But he was concerned about his Eini Yedeh Shemin Nefesh. He was concerned about his girdle Shabbat. He was concerned about the level that's beyond and super rational level of the soul. And again, he's not going off from that. He just wants to indicate that there's a type of avodah that's super rational, and that's what we see from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And then he goes on to say further, this will be understood. This level of the I don't know if I skipped the line or not. I don't know if I read this, an idea of that's it's a Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice is beyond reason. Okay. This will be understood. This will be understood according to what's explained in the Torah in the Maimer entitled V'Yadaita. Any level in godliness that it's possible to comprehend it with intellect. Intellect is one of the internal soul powers, that which is something that's grasped within us. There's always a level beyond it that we need to come on to emunah. So as much as we grasp, there's always something to go higher and to have emunah. And therefore, so this explains, there's a level of a mitzvah to know Hashem, which is what we can comprehend. And there's another mitzvah to believe in Hashem, because as much as we know, there's always going to be something higher than that we need to believe. Similar to what's going to be our Mashiach. Mashiach is also associated with belief. That concerning Mashiach, we also say animamin. So the Mashiach has to do with the idea of emunah, but it also has both components. It says about Mashiach, Sudis explains about this. The Tzemach Tzedek explains about it, that there's going to be two aspects of Mashiach. First of all, he's called Melech HaMashiach. He's called King Mashiach. And also we know Mashiach is going to teach us Torah. Not only is he going to teach us Torah, he's going to teach even Moshe Rabbeinu and the others Torah, all those that were learning Torah, all those years in Gan Eden, he's going to teach them Torah. So we see that there's two components of Mashiach. There's a Rav and there's a Melech component. The noise of Shalom, this call Yisrael in Yom Mashiach and Lavon Asog, in addition to the fact that Mashiach will teach all Yid matters that are comprehensible, matters that can be understood. That is the level of Mashiach, that he's known as being a Rav. In a noise of in addition to this, there's a level that's higher than being a Rav. Than this level, there has to be a level of belief. This comes from the level of Melech, that's a Mashiach. It says about the king in general that his fear has to be upon you. What does it mean his fear has to be upon you? You're not doing it because you understand it. You are doing it because you are in awe of the king. So the idea of his being a king means he imparts to us and in us things that we have to do that are just because of belief, not because of comprehension. So just like when it comes to Mashiach's relationship to us, the same thing in our avoid in our day-to-day life. Then moving by avoid for this understood in the avoid of a person. After the avoid of emunah belief, that belief is lower than rational understanding, like we said about Chabakuk, we said about the lower level of Goyrol, the level of the emunah that's before belief, that it's just tzaddik yichya, that's everything stands upon that. After we have the emunah that's before and lower than reason, then eventually we arrive at the level of the lottery that's beyond reason and knowledge. And in between, there's a level of knowledge, and we'll soon explain how they interact, all of them together, based on the order of a person's davening, etc. And this idea in the avoid of every single day, that we have the goyrol, that's the abuna lower than belief. Then we have, that's the belief, the goyrol is below rational understanding. Then there's is the level of with kaichas panimim, with intellect, and so on. And then there's a level that's beyond reason, the level of God. So we see this in davening, the betchilos atfilah Amrim Haidul Hashem Kiruvishmai, praise be Hashem, or thank you to Hashem, call in His name. Haidu is in the word Haidah. We're just admitting, we're just accepting before understanding it. That's the level of thanks and admitting and sublimation that's below understanding and knowledge. It's the beginning of the day. We didn't yet meditate on Hashem and understand about Hashem. It's the beginning of our daven. We didn't yet talk about Hashem really. And afterwards, we say the verses of praise from Baruch She'amar until after Yishtabach, and then we have the brachas before Kriyat Shema, and then we have the Kriyat Shema itself. What takes place through that whole sections of davening, from Baruch She'amar till after Kriyat Shema, till just before Shemoneh Esrei. So inyan avoda b'koiches primim. Then we are doing the avoda with our inner koiches. We are understanding and talking to ourselves intellectually about Hashem. We are trying to understand as much as we can understand about godliness logically, and then that logic is going to bring us to a love of Hashem. So this is all what's called the inner soul powers, the intellect and the emotions. But they're built on a foundation. The foundation is the foundation of belief. So even though now we're holding by seemingly a higher level, we're holding by the koiches pnimim, we're holding by the intellect and the emotions, but they are still affected by the initial part of davening, the Haidul Hashem, and another Amorim, the Rebbe says, he's soon going to explain this right over here also, the Moidani, the bittul that he had at the beginning is informing everything else that he's going to do later on. The Haidul Hashem, also this is permeated with the admitting of being thankful to Hashem. And afterwards we arrive at the davening of Shemoneh Esrei. By Shemoneh Esrei, we are standing like a servant before his master. That's the bittul already that transcends intellect. We've already gone through the whole intellectual part of davening. We've spoken about his praises. We've spoken about the malachim. We've spoken about Hashem's love. We've spoken about all the greatness of Hashem. We've intellectually become aware of it. We've emotionally become aware of it. Now, by Shemoneh Esrei, we're standing like a servant before his master, accepting Hashem's kingship and having that bittul, that sublimation that's beyond reason. Here is where the two meanings of the goyrol meet. As we said before, there's the goyrol that's below reason, before reason, the basis, the foundation of reason, and then the goyrol that's beyond reason. So both of them meet in davening at the beginning and at the apex of davening. Through the bittul and the admitting that below reason, understanding, that is the reason why after the intellect and the emotions, in the middle of davening, we don't get stuck in that. We're able to get out of ourselves and we're able to reach a level of sublimation that's beyond reason, because beforehand we already had established and made this bittul that's lamata matam vadas. And he says, he traces it back further. It's not just that the bittul lamata matam vadas begins with haidu, but even begins earlier. The betchilos hayom at the beginning of the day, miyad shenei mishnasay. I mean, immediately when he awakens from sleep, he says Maidan. Like the Alter Rebbe writes in his siddur this instruction that a person should say it as soon as he awakens. In the Maidani that he says as soon as he awakens, that idea of that's the acceptance and admitting that's beyond, that's below reason and understanding. The idea of comprehension, the idea of understanding doesn't apply yet by him. His mind is still not thinking straight even. B'Yisraelim is even more so. There are Moidani ain't Imrim Shem. When he's saying Moidani as opposed to Haidu, we don't even mention Hashem's name. Why don't we mention Hashem's name? Because before Negelvasser, our hands are still tummy. He finds himself in such a state and situation that he's not even permitted up the Allah to mention Hashem's name. In such a low situation, he is the lowest situation spiritually, and that's where his connection is even there. So that shows the emunah that's before even reason and understanding. Afterwards, we arrive at the level of the admittance that we praise Hashem and call out in His name. That's already a state that's higher than Maidani. That's why we're saying Haidul Hashem. We're already connecting to one of the names of Hashem, which we couldn't do by Maidan. Afterwards begins the avodah based on reason. In the psukim of praise and the brachas of Krishma and Krishma, these are all the different levels, like we said before, that are based on reason and intellect. Until eventually he leaves all that intellect and emotion behind, and he comes to something higher. Till he arrives at the sublimation and the bittul of Shemin Esrei, then he stands like a servant before his master. That's the bittul beyond reason and knowledge. That his existence becomes totally nullified. And only because his existence is totally but nullified, that itself, the bittul doesn't make him weak, but the bittul makes him strong. How is that so? Like Sifri. That's also brought down in Rashi on Chumash. Says that the servant of the king is the king himself, meaning someone that comes to represent the king, he has the full power and force of the king. So the bittul of the Yitera Eibishter is actually imbuing them with a strength much more powerful than they would have without that bittul. Now the Rebbe concludes in the final paragraph, that's what it means only by a lottery. The land should be divided. They conquered Eretz Canaan. And they made it into a land of Yisrael. That's the idea of taking darkness and transforming it to light. It was a land of Canaan, and now it's a Jewish idea. We know the great miracle that happened. How did Yeshua conquer Eretz Yisrael? So the Koyanim encircled and went around Yericho with the Aron that had the Luchos. They went around it 7 times and they blew in shofar. By days of Yericho, and through that, the wall of Yericho fell down. Yericho is called the lock of Eretz Yisrael. Therefore, it's considered when they conquered Yericho, when the walls of Yericho fell down, it's considered as if they conquered the entire Eretz Yisrael. So what does that mean? That means the Aron, which is Torah, was responsible for a transformation of Eretz Canaan into Eretz Yisrael. So too, it's in the conquest of Eretz Yisrael with our service. What did we say is one of the components of the conquest? It's through the study of Torah. That's the idea of the Aron. The Aron had the Luchos, which had the Aser Sadibris, includes in it the entire Torah. And also, it's not just the study of Torah. There's also hinted over here the idea of Tshuva. How is that so? Also, the blowing of shofar, that's the idea of tshuva. Like the Rambam writes in the laws of tshuva, that blowing the shofar, remez yeshpo, it has in it a hint. What is it a hint? It's like an alarm. It means awaken those of you that are sleeping from your sleep. In Kol HaPratim Shemainisham, the Rambam enumerates all the details about a person who's doing tshuva. He has to wake from his slumber, his sleep, from his deep sleep, and so on. So therefore, we have in the conquest of Eretz Yisrael, we have Torah study and we have tshuva. And the same thing in our own personal Eretz Yisrael and in the Eretz Yisrael of the entire world. By days going through this, immediately they are redeemed. So it should be for us through conquering Eretz Yisrael spiritually in our service. We'll come to actually conquering Eretz Yisrael in the physical. That the great congregation will return here to Eretz Yisrael in the reign of his Kanenu, with our youth and our elderly, but with our sons and our daughters. Yes, Mashiach that came to Bakar of Mamish, and the coming of Mashiach that came speedily, Mamor.
Amen.